The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest is Mayor Ian Boddy of the city of Owen Sound. And Ian is standing in one of his usual beautiful perches in the atrium wings just off City Hall, off City Council chambers at City Hall.
So right over the front door, looking down Main Street behind me, and I'm looking the other way towards the flags and the clock.
Yeah. Now, this was one of the things that got added when City Hall was renovated, and you've used this as a background. It's great to see the city in this particular way.
It's difficult actually to book the room because there's often staff meetings that are going on here and in the other atrium. They're very, very well used. When the architect came in, the accessibility laws had changed, and we had to have more accessible entrances, and so that we had to build out, and it only made sense for the architect to put these over them, and it's been a great addition.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it can also be used as overflow for city council if that's ever needed as well.
Yeah, I think we have done that a couple of times. My favorite memory actually is a few years ago. We do service awards, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, of course. A lot of staff came in and we opened up the big wooden doors that closed these off and had one long room with I think close to 100 staff members sitting around having breakfast, and it worked really well. And it's just great to have so many people in the room and the conversation. That they don't. They're working in different departments or even in the same department. They don't always get a chance to hang out, and it worked really well for that. So yeah, it was great.
I've been around Owen Sound long enough just to go back and touch on the rebuild of City Hall, and I do remember the old City Hall and the challenges that you faced. But I have to say that the rebuild and the update has been looks great. And both from the outside and the inside has really made things better, and for staff as well.
Well, looks are really just the drop in the bucket. It's the fact that it's insulated now, and that it's got more than single pane glass, and that it doesn't have a rusted out boiler in the basement, and much more efficient for energy, for electricity, natural gas, etc. It's just it needed to be done.
Sure. Well, that's actually a great segue into one of the things that you talked about at the most recent city council meeting, and that is the TOM. And what was presented at council was it was a proposal on fundraising, as I understand it, a feasibility study on fundraising, but all of a sudden, I was sitting there and I was watching the presentation, and I thought, hey, this is a vision. This is a possibility of what the TOM might be. It doesn't say it is. In fact, the consultant very clearly said these are just concepts. And I'm thinking, wow, I have not seen the TOM presented in this way before. It was quite remarkable.
So Tom Thompson Art Gallery opened in 1966, or for 1967, really, for the Canadian Centennial. It's had an addition put on in 84, 88 on each side, and it needs some work. If we did nothing else, as we've just completed accessibility, we've changed the ramps at the front to make them more appropriate for accessibility into the building. The elevator has been updated from the 1988 lift that was there before. So there has been renovations, but air conditioning, climate control with paintings, humidity control, temperature control, those things are always in need. With the art being stored in the basement, there's a risk of flood, and it affects insurance, etc. And boy, the 2-3 generations, I think it's been close to 20 years, have been looking at expanding and changing and altering the building, and it needs to be done. So it's been started, looked at, and dropped, and this is probably the furthest we've gone. Back in March of 2022, with the unanimous vote of council, we approved going ahead with this feasibility study that was presented last night. So a very specialized architect that specializes in these types of facilities, galleries and museums and public spaces, looked at what's needed and came up with two different ideas. So, not written in stone, not the ideas aren't approved, but two different models. And then from there, put a price tag on them that were in the $16 million range based on what those are. And of course, you're always swinging the bat for the home run or for the outer fences. It doesn't mean that that's where we end up. But it gives us an idea of what it could look like, what it could cost. And then the next step, which council again approved last night, the unanimous vote, all 9 members voting, was to go ahead with the fundraising study to see where money can come from, how much money can be raised. And at the end of the day, that's going to decide how the art gallery goes forward.
Yes, that was evident in the conversation around the table, that the council made it very clear that that public money would likely not, probably not, definitely not, depending on who you were listening to, would not be a part of these any updates to the TOM. But I thought you made a very interesting statement about you placed the TOM in the context of the city infrastructure.
Well, we'll often get people that aren't interested in the gallery that think we should close and that it means nothing. But there's a community in this town that's interested in culture. They'll go to the Roxy Theatre. They'll go to Summerfolk. They'll go to the Symphony, and they may never go near the arena. And our arena is, I think it's about $1 million that goes into it to cover the cost of the 2 arenas, the rec center and the Bayshore Community Center. It's about $1 million a year of taxpayers' money that keeps those open. And certainly more people go through it, but it's a service that we provide. And really, that's what a municipality does. I've been harping on this. We provide services to our members to make their lives better. And not everybody uses one service, they use different services. So, over the years, I've seen a lot of people around that art gallery that have come and gone that make use of it. And it is one of the services that we provide. We've got, we're blessed with really luck to have had Tom Thompson living here, his family living here, his brother George living up on 8th Street, that donated several pieces of Thompson's art to the local gallery, as well as a group of 7 that were friends of Tom Thompson that have donated art. Art that's coming in from George McLean, who is lives out of Bognor, and a world-renowned artist for his art. That some pieces have come in that are pretty special. So, it is part of our culture and part of our community, and an important part.
And just as not everyone walks in Harrison Park or Nawash Park or whatever, we all use different facilities depending on our age, our stage, our life. But as you said, this is the stuff we hold in common, and the TOM is part of that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And like I said, I think that's a very helpful and useful point to maintain and to keep in perspective. So it was. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've probably been into the Tom Thompson Museum perhaps maybe half a dozen times in my time in Owen Sound, but I sure hate to lose it.
You got to come with me sometime. Oh, you got to come. I go in. If you go to the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa, you are behind a line and you are 6-8 feet from the art. I guess security won't want me saying this, but this you can get up, a couple of feet from a Tom Thompson artist, a piece of art, and you can see how he painted it, and it always amazes me that. Now we're going to go on for an hour just about Tom Thompson's art. He was light and color were his big things that he was trying to capture, and his small pieces, and they're pretty amazing when you see up close how he did it, what colors he uses to trick your eye into seeing something else. Shadows on snow with a very light blue, or a hill that the sunlight late day is hitting in behind the trees. Another hill that's down is probably my favorite piece over there. But it's for me. There's times that I'll go in. I'm around the corner at my office. I'll go in at lunchtime, and it just changes settles me down if I'm kind of wound up and kind of stressed, and yeah, and you can kind of escape into the art.
Sure, absolutely. And I recall the first time I was in there, there was a painting of Tom Thompson's, probably one of his early sketches of Lake Scugog. And I happen to know exactly where that had been painted because there was information there. I know exactly where it had been painted. I'd seen that very sunset on Lake Scugog on many occasions, and I thought, yeah, it's still there. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. He captured that. And okay, his Algonquin pieces and Northern Ontario pieces are much more well known, but he had a sense of place. I felt that of what this country was really about. That is quite remarkable.
Yeah, some people tell you that Thompson and the group of seven wrote with the paintbrush, created the Canadian identity, that rugged rocks and trees, and all the things that we think of as being Canadian, and us being as Canadian, a plaid shirt on, can probably be drawn back to those guys in the late teens, early 20s, being the 1920s, that described Canada to us and used their paintbrushes to create the identity.
Absolutely, and enriched us all.
And there's a whole bunch of pieces across the river right here in Owen Sound that you can see.
Okay. Well, I wanted to also touch on something that happened at council, which is it doesn't happen too often, but I certainly have seen it from time to time, and that is honoring a distinguished citizen of our community, and in this case, it was Garth Pierce. And maybe tell us a little bit about Garth, because I'm not sure that's a well-recognized name in this city. Although when I heard the story, I thought, wow, he's really been a part of this city.
Oh, Garth is an important part of the city. So, each year we do Senior of the Year, Volunteer of the Year, Youth Volunteer of the Year. Twice I've done. The last one was Dick Hipman, who had been a councillor and then sat on the Conservation Authority for many years representing the city. That we did a special one because we wanted to recognize all the work that had gone in for a long time. And boy, whenever you start focusing on certain people, you'll miss others. But Mr. Pierce has been on the police board for 20 years. He's been the chair for many of those years. He's represented the Owen Sound Police Board on regional associations and provincial associations of police boards, and had input on police board policy, et cetera, here and around the province, and has been very active. He sat on our physician recruitment committee for, I think, 5 years, did the council remuneration ad hoc a couple of times. But Garth came in 1980 to the old Owen Sound General and Marine Hospital as the president and CEO. And shortly after that, they started to work on plans for the new regional health center. So Garth was instrumental in lobbying the government to get the new opened in '86, so it's not new anymore, but the medical facility that we have. Helped getting some of the provincial funding, helped with the planning and overseeing that as the CAO would do. And then was there to transition if you can imagine moving patients and equipment, and from the old General Marine Hospital up there in May of '86. That was Garth's project. A few years later, he retired from here and was working at acting, I think, or maybe part-time or maybe full-time for a year or so in a different community as the hospital president, and was home every weekend, never left Owen Sound, didn't want to leave Owen Sound. So it's pretty nice when you can recognize special people like Garth that have had such a big impact in our community, and certainly on our police services board. So that's what last night was about.
Yeah, and I think that people need to recognize that the governance of our police service is not vested in City Council, but is vested in the Police Services Board. And you're a member of it, obviously, but it's the Police Services Board that is really in charge of the police service. Well, at least chief.
But the mayor or the mayor's designate, one other councillor, and one public member appointed by council, 2 members appointed by the province. We do not answer with that hat on. We don't answer to council. Council can't give us a directive, so they don't want council influencing policing as such, the operation of policing. And really, once you get over there, the police board oversees a lot of the mechanicals of policing, but it's the chief that oversees the operation of the police force and what policemen do and how they investigate, and that doesn't come from the board. So budgets, policy, there's a lot of policies that have just been updated. We just went through that, and luckily Garth was there with his 20 years of experience as we were reviewing all those bylaws that have been often added on to over a number of years and not cleaned up. And within the last year, we've cleaned them up over there and got them, all brought together. And interestingly, I think our policies will match, I think Saugeen, I think Hanover and West Grey, or they'll be catching up to us. So a lot of our policies are the same, which allows us to work together, and as we make those changes, we can do it as a group and amortize the costs of updating those bylaws.
Sure, because no matter what you're doing, whether you're making changes, always costs something, because you can't just do it on your own.
No, and we had a retired police chief that helped us with those, come in and go through them all, and it was great to get done. Good. So who is the new chair of the Police Services Board? John Thompson has been the chair for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And he was present last night as well. Right.
I guess I noticed that. And he's a lawyer here in town?
No. John Thompson was in, I think, banking business, commercial business in Toronto, grew up at Clavering. His wife's from Owen Sound. They retired, moved home to Owen Sound.
Ah, okay. And the other the public members are exactly that, public members.
Well, we're waiting for the province to. John would be the public member appointed by council. Okay. Mm-hmm. Sunit Kukreja, Councillor Kukreja, is the other councillor from council. Then Brian O'Leary has been appointed by the province, and Garth's position hasn't been filled yet.
Right,
and that's by the province.
So yes, and those public appointments operate on their own time scale.
Yeah, they seem to. Last time, I think we're a year and a half waiting to get it filled.
Yeah. Well, we shall see what we shall see, I guess.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah. Now, one of the other things that I noticed has happened recently is you've been traveling. You made a trip to Ottawa. Now, it's not often that a politician makes a trip and a major funding announcement is made, but there was a funding announcement.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with me.
You're sure?
The Canadian Nuclear Association Conference. So anyone that's involved in the nuclear industry across Canada, anyone that's involved in isotopes across Canada, development of small nuclear reactors, et cetera, as they're being built out, come to this conference. So certainly some mayors from Bruce County are there, from Huron, and I was the only one from Grey. I was there mostly with promoting the Southwestern Ontario Isotope Coalition, which is, all of Grey, Bruce, Huron, and will expand from there. So it's a great opportunity to go and talk to people. Hung out with somebody that runs the shipping company that gets the isotopes from Bruce Power to Germany to be processed. Fascinating conversation of the policy with that, and understanding that what they kind of need, what some of the other industries need, what they're working on to increase the number of isotopes that can be produced at Bruce Power. And of course, Bruce Power is in partnership with Saugeen and Ojibwe Nation on the isotope file. So a great opportunity. And while we were there, second last morning, it was announced that Bruce Power is getting funding of $50 million to do the feasibility study for Bruce C. So Bruce A has 4 reactors, Bruce B has 4 reactors. They have property there. We know to get to net zero, it's going to have to be nuclear. You need to have transmission lines that are already there. There's enough property there. Well, I guess I'm jumping the gun on that one. The feasibility study I'm confident will show that there's enough land there to do Bruce C with another number of reactors. And so this is what the study's looking at.
Sure. Well, it'll be how long? What's the timeline on the study? Do you know yet?
No, I don't know off the top of my head. Certainly, Mr. Renchek or Skoniak at Bruce Power will tell you that we've got to get through the upgrades of the reactors now as their major component replacement as they're doing that. And with each reactor that they upgrade, they're learning and innovating and becoming even better with the next one. That was one of the things, instead of taking a really long time to take it apart, they were able to go in this time for the latest, which I think is, I can't remember what number over in A, they were able to go in and, I'm going to use the word toxology, but that isn't the proper word, but they're able to go in and clean it up, which allows them to shorten the period of time it will take to replace the components on it. Decontaminating was the word I was looking for. Fascinating, something new, developing engineers working on it, came up with the idea and were able to go in and do it. That's, the innovation that's going on over there that is great for the whole area.
Sure. And the nuclear industry is maybe accused of being moribund, but it's not. And what's learned at Bruce Power, I'm sure, will be used at Pickering and Darlington,
et cetera. Yeah, et cetera. I was told that there are 700 people on the waiting list for this conference, which has just grown with net zero recognizing that nuclear is going to have to be a major part of the answer. Certainly storage, pump storage, battery storage, hydrogen, all those different things are going to come into play to store energy for daily use as well. But the world is changing rapidly, and it's an interesting place to be.
As an aside, I just noticed in this morning's paper that Hydrogen Optimized has a new CEO as well.
Yes, that's my understanding. I haven't met him yet. I don't think he comes until April, but that's a major step. Hiring somebody with experience in Germany that can help take them globally, I think, is the thinking. It'll be that much bigger.
Yes, that was one of the things that certainly the article did suggest, is that his background is on big projects, and I guess we can't think of anything bigger than moving us to net zero.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's see what else is. Oh, I was going to say the Ottawa trip you did not go with anyone. You just went yourself. Is that correct?
Employee Paul McGrath came with me.
Okay.
Steve Furness and Savannah Myers from Grey County were there as well at it. And that would be everybody from the government side, I think, in Grey County.
Sure. Sure. So this is once again one of those regional things where the county is stepping up and stepping in as well, and seeing the potential for the spin-offs of Bruce Power and the nuclear industry.
A couple of years ago during the election, I talked to somebody at a doorstep that works at Bruce Power, and he told me there is approximately 200 families that live in Owen Sound that are employed over at Bruce Power. They choose Owen Sound for lifestyle, for kids playing lacrosse and hockey and dance and theater and those things that are available here in town. And it's a regional economic development employer.
Sure, sure, and it's not just obviously Owen Sound, but right across Grey Bruce and Huron, and I'm sure elsewhere across the province.
Yeah.
I do recall when I attended a Blue Jays game. Now this is going back a few years. Seeing a sign in what was then the Sky Dome, I guess, saying that the stadium is lit by Bruce Power, or the electricity comes from Bruce Power.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Well, and, just thinking BWXT is here in the old PPG plant, and they're expanding. They really like their experience here in Owen Sound, the staff they have, and they're expanding up here, providing not only to Bruce Power but to OPG and I believe Darlington are one of the two plants down around Toronto. So that was the whole idea with Mike Renchek, was get these suppliers that are going to supply Bruce up into the area. And after the major component replacement projects are done, then hopefully they'll stay and provide, develop a staff and technologies here and share them and sell them and keep the region doing well.
Sure. Yeah, I mean it's one of those what shall I say, economic drivers that is, it's a given here.
Yes.
And we one of those things we need to take for granted. We shouldn't take for granted.
Correct. Yes, agreed.
Yeah. I'm looking at my list here, and I'm coming up. Not that I'm coming up blank, but everything that I've got on my list. Oh, let's jump into it. Downtown River Precinct project. That's been on the council's agenda for quite a while, and another step is being taken.
So. Before we did City Hall, City Council, the ceiling had collapsed and we were doing our council meetings. That was between 2010 and 2014. We had a presentation that was up in Grey County Council. So that's where my brain's going, is to try and pick the time. So between 2010 and 2014, we had our first report on how we could upgrade the river area, tie it into Main Street, on this side to that river area, and the Sydenham River being so close, and the art gallery being in the other side, and how do we bring that all together? And as we know, we did the River Precinct Phase 1 around the market, around the back of the building here, and beautified it and widened the sidewalks, and we see lots of people out there for concerts and using that space. Mm-hmm. The next phase is east side of the river along the back of the stores again, between 9th Street, so Tim Hortons, the Sydenham condominium building, and 10th Street Bridge, and cleaning that up. We had a couple of goes at it. It kept coming in a lot higher than the budget we had set for it, and plans were altered and changed, and now we're ready to go. It has gone out for proposal or for tender.
It went out for tender.
Tender is okay. And came back in at, I think, about just over $2 million. It's I think about $70,000 over the planned budget. But in there will be contingencies that if something happens, we spend that. And if that doesn't happen, if everything goes smoothly, we don't. So it's pretty well on budget. And we don't mind it being a little bit over budget because the other project we talked about. So just before I get to that other project,
I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there, Ian, because I'm getting word in my ear. We got to take a break.
Okay, perfect time.
We'll come back. We'll come back to the next big project in a moment, friends. I'm David Shearman, and yes, we'll be right back with the next big project.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
You're watching Rogers TV.
This is the office of Todd Hammersfield. And like most of Canada's film and media industries, Todd's studio is mostly straight and white. Todd tends to avoid that topic, but it's not Todd's fault. Todd didn't personally spend the last century making it nearly impossible for BIPOC and LGBTQ plus folk to pursue careers in this industry, or at least I don't think Todd did. Did you, Todd? But he did benefit from the structure, and that's why we need Todd's help now. By pledging to check their privilege, Todd Studio can now help fund programs to finally create a more diverse talent pool. And Todd, you can stop hiding behind this plan. What?
Actually, I'm in the vents.
Oh!
There you are. I was looking all over for you.
Stop hiding from our industry's lack of diversity and pledge to help POV fix it. Go to checkyourprivilege.ca.
They don't make vents like they used to.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
Great. Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest is Mayor Ian Boddy of the city of Owen Sound, and it's a beautiful blue sky out there. It looks a little gray because of the tinting of the windows, but trust me, it's a beautiful blue sky, lovely sunshine, and next week it's going to be snowing. Which leads me to okay, this is a gimme, Ian. Is this winter going to affect our snow control budget, or is it kind of you lose on one end, you pay on the other?
Well, anytime that we don't spend the money, it goes into a reserve. So if we go over budget in a future winter, then it balances out. So it's an ongoing, strictly set aside for snow removal. We budget on 10-year averages. So if we're running into more mild winters, then we're budgeting accordingly. We're not budgeting for that 1990. Or whatever it was that we got so much snow.
Hey, 2014 was a banner year as well, don't forget. I remember seeing a sign on one of the churches in Owen Sound that said, "Pray for Wyatt and Willie." Huh. So yeah, I mean, but snow control is always an important part of this city. So we'll just take it as it comes. Nothing we can do. Anyway, we were talking about the Downtown River Precinct and the project there, and we had to go to break. But let's come back to that. What's the project going to be looking like? What's the scope of work on that?
Well, it's going to be upgrading it, obviously. It's right along the river, so boardwalks along the edge of the river, different lighting, different community gathering areas. So it'll be a little bit different than the 8th Street to 9th Street block. We'll have a different characteristic, but a lot of the same idea of inlaid brick, wider sidewalks that that have some shape to them, and people areas, areas that people can come and sit down and hang out. When I was coming over here today, the where the blue tarps go up in the summer, that area just at the 9th Street Bridge, there had to be 20 people out there hanging out, and it's nice to see. That's a great community gathering area, and I'm sure the next one will be too.
Yeah, it's good to see to have those community gathering areas, and just to see places where people can walk. It kind of well, it sure beats railroad tracks.
Yeah, or wherever. Yes.
I mean,
that's sort of the idea with as we're doing our strategic planning, or what we should more correctly call Vision 2050. As we start to plan out those things, places that people can be, that enhances living in Owen Sound, whether it be winter or summer, is so important. So it's the use of space as much as it is thinking about people, culture, where they're going to live, jobs. It's everything. You need jobs, and you certainly need economic development to pay for these things. But it's that whole thing, and so we're a little bit ahead of the curve, or really setting the table for the community for the next 20 or 30 years with these river precinct projects.
Right, right. Now, is there any sense that this will this be the stopping point, or will the next generation have to deal with the west side of the river?
I'll pick apart your words a little bit. The next generation, I'm sure, will look forward to dealing with the other side, not having to. It's the other side of the river. We do have parkland there. When you think about the bandstand and Cenotaph and that whole area going up to 10th Street, so it is part of the river precinct plan. As we're looking at that, we also were looking at things like Alpha Street as being a badly needed project. So instead of putting the money into First Avenue West just yet, we set that aside for a little while. It will stay on the plans, I'm sure, and we'll do a couple of the other projects that we have to get done.
Yes, 9th Street East is another one that has to be done as well. But that's down the road.
9th Street or 9th Avenue?
9th Ave, sorry.
Yeah, up 20th Street down towards Malleable Hill is, I know, is on the list that's badly in need of repairs. There's a few that we've got to get after. The one that we're pretty excited about, I think, the next one is we've set aside those projects, I said, was Alpha Street. As we do Alpha Street Hill by the old General Marine Hospital that needs to be done, and the water and wastewater infrastructure that goes all the way up really to 9th Avenue, I guess that would be.
9th Ave West, yes.
West, yeah, that all needs to be done. And we thought it was another year away, and potentially done over 2 years. And the engineering looked at it, and we're going to get it done this year, which is pretty amazing, starting in April and ending in November. That hill takes a lot of heavy trucks that are going back and forth to the grain elevators or picking up salt at the grain elevators in the other part of the season. And so we approved the contractor yesterday that came in. We had budgeted just under $9 million, and it came in at approximately $5.2 million. Now, again, there's contingencies and there's different things there, but we're finding that after COVID and the price of petroleum and oil and those things for paving, it seemed like everybody was really busy, and prices went up, and they seem to have readjusted, which is nice.
For sure, because I know that I remember the discussion from a year or so ago when the Alpha Street project was under consideration. There was real concern over the price of the project, and that was the reason the council deferred it. And even still, I'm hearing your colleagues in other municipalities who have infrastructure needs are saying, "Man, the price of the price of asphalt, the price of concrete is just unreal."
Well, and as you know, we are doing our capital budget over a 5-year term, so we know what has to be done. It allows us to plan out, so we're not having to do 3 projects that we have to do now because they're about to collapse. Doing them over a number of years, and then being able to plan the budget over a number of years. So, very smart budget management with the capital budget, getting things done, and. I talked to other councillors and mayors at Grey County and around that you go to the conferences, and they're a little jealous of some of the things that we're doing that they will have to and will adopt. There's also municipalities out there, Waterloo, City of Waterloo, that does a 3-year operation budget. So they're looking ahead, all the way along to try and smooth out the bumps and keep the costs as consistent as they can for their taxpayers.
Sure. Now, speaking of budgets, where are we at in the budget process in the city now? It just seems like it's when we talked last, there'd been budget consultations, and then there was quite a how shall I say it? There was quite a public presentation and presence at the last meeting where the budget was presented. And okay, where are we at now? Where are we at in the timeline?
So we had a public meeting, and then we came back and we had the final report that council approved. I think the bylaw's been passed, I think. Bylaw, of course, always comes, it's the final decision. It always comes at a council meeting, not at a committee of the whole meeting. I think we talked about that a few months ago. And it finalizes, and I think the budget has come through. So it is a total municipal levy has been approved of $34.9 approximately $million, which is a 2.58% increase. Total operating budget, when you take in grants and reserves and things, is $46.5 million. Of that annual budget, approximately 44% is police and fire and transit. And then when we combine that, we're trying to predict what it's going to be like when it gets to the door, when we combine Grey County and education, should be about 3.05% increase for the Owen Sound taxpayers. And as we've gone through, 8s and 10s of inflation in the last couple of years, it's interesting to note, I've got it written down, Grey Highlands 10%, West Grey 9.7, Saugeen Shores 4.99, Hanover 6.8. So, certainly there's other municipalities that are struggling, and in comparison, when we've got new assessment of things like Southbridge coming on, and some of the Owen Sound Gardens, and some of the townhouses and houses that have come in, and apartments that have come into the area, into the city specifically. Over the last couple of years, we're starting to see that, and that certainly allowed us to use it, take that new money and put it into the budget, so we're providing services, we're not cutting services, but allow lower increases of taxes as a result of taking in that growth. So that's the goal.
Sure. And it's interesting to see that we're now starting to see some of the impact of the building growth, building change that is happening, as you mentioned. It's been slow in coming, but it is coming.
Yeah, it is slow in coming to what our expectations or what our wishes are, maybe.
Yeah.
The more you're around, the more you realize that it's that this is the way it goes. Developer gets their land, they get their site plan approvals. We're all ready to go. Then they've got to go back and get their funding. They've got to wrap up a previous project that's ongoing so they can move staff, equipment, et cetera, here. So, we have seen some of those projects started and some completed, and others will be starting soon. So,
do you think that we'll start to see some housing construction in the next year or so, now that well, interest rates haven't dropped yet, but the rumor is, or speculation is, that we'll start to see some changes either in the middle of the year or towards the end of the year.
Well, if their interest costs are almost double what they were a couple of years ago, it certainly affects decisions and when they move. I think we're going to see some preparation of land this year of roads and water, wastewater going in. We certainly saw that where the hotel is going in behind Southbridge up on 16th Avenue, I think it is, where they prepared the land last year, and I think we'll start to see buildings going in pretty soon, I think. So I think we'll see some land being prepared in a couple of different locations.
Sure. In other words, watch for the moving dirt.
Yeah, the mayor's constantly watching for it.
Well, you'll have to get a picture of you. They'll have to have a picture of you behind in the seat of a bulldozer or something,
That'd be dangerous.
Well, hey, would make a great political photo if nothing else.
Well, when I was a much younger man working in gravel crushers in Alberta and Fort McMurray, I was operating a loader for a couple of summers. So I don't think it's just like skating or riding a bike, though. I don't think you just pick it back up and be as precise with a bucket as I would have been those summers.
Well, I hate to tell you, Ian, the controls have changed. It's all joystick operated now, and you would find that you'd have to.
Yeah. It wouldn't have been joystick then. You're right.
Okay. Well, one of the questions that I certainly wanted to explore for a little bit is something that happened after the budget conversations at council, and that is the motion that was made to disband the salary task group or the salary task force. Can you explain what happened there?
Well, council has appointed a remuneration committee just about every term, and before 2014, it often was done the last summer before an election. And then all of the council that was running again for re-election were accused of trying to pad their pockets. So it was moved more to middle of the term. We always want to be in the middle of the pack, not leading the pack for salary, and not at the back end of the pack for what we do. So we get our CPI consumer price index increases at the same level as the non-unionized staff gets. So it isn't like we've become stagnant. We get that every year. Some councillors felt that they just, given the budgetary pressures that others are, feeling, Grey County, we started at 12%, got our way down to approximately 7% increase. These are difficult times. People are feeling the hit from their fuel prices, their food prices, and everything going up. There's a number of councillors that just didn't feel that it was the time to give ourselves a raise, to show a bit of leadership and say, no, we're not going to do this. I guess it could come back with a suggested increase. We could still say no, but then why appoint a committee if you're going to say no anyway? I knew Brock was going to be bringing that. He thought he was going to bring it additional business at the end, but given that we were talking about budgets, I encouraged them to bring it up, at that moment in the meeting, and we had the discussion.
Now, just to be clear, the process, the motion was made, passed, the discussion, but one of the things that was a little bit, I won't say confusing, but there was a motion also made to take an immediate vote, and to normally you give notice of motion, and the motion was to waive the notice of motion. Can you explain a little bit about that and how that goes down?
Well, to be quite frank, it's not easy being a councillor at budget time. We spend 5 or 6 weeks of the budget that everyone tells us they want the budget to be lower, and that we're spending, and And it isn't always positive. The rest of the year, oddly, we get asked to increase the services that we're providing here and there, and the answer is, well, we can't because we just cut the budget. So we could have done a notice of motion. We were dealing with budgets. We were dealing with financial situations. And it just seemed appropriate to, A, get it over with instead of dragging it out. And it was, kind of the thinking was that it's part of the budget process, and this is the final meeting of the budget. And certainly if we had waited, that committee probably would have had their first meeting, and then we would have been saying, no, never mind. So, there is some different pressures there to make the decision right now.
Sure. And if I understand parliamentary procedure, that's one of the options that you always have, just to waive the notice of motion. And while the normal process is to give notice and then deal with it at the next meeting, it is also possible to waive that notice and to deal with it immediately.
Yeah, it's usually reserved for emergencies, but it just seemed to make sense that we're dealing with the budget, that we dealt with it at that time. Now, there's certainly some pushback. We had some people arguing that we needed to increase the wage so we could make it full-time, so we could get more business people that can make better decisions on the budget. And on the opposite side, we certainly got people saying that there are those that are below the median income, I think was what they're using, or the average income. But I think the median income for the community that we're discouraging from running. And if you go back to 2010, 14, 18, and 22 elections, there are a number of people that would fall. I don't want to judge people that are running. Certainly, people that run don't have to expose their income levels or anything else. But when you looked at it, a number of people would fall under that median income level that did run. They weren't elected. And so it's hard to argue that it is a deterrent for those under median income levels in the community are discouraged because we didn't increase the fee. We weren't going to argue at the meeting, I'm just not buying it.
Well, it's interesting you raised that, Ian, because I did that research myself. I went and it's readily available. Now, I didn't go back further than the last election, but there were anyone can run if you can pay your nomination fee, which is refundable. And there were a variety of candidates who ran.
Correct.
And you can slice and dice it any way you want, but there were a variety of people. It's not who got elected, but it is who ran.
Yeah, and the community gets to elect who they want to elect. That's not up to a current council to decide who should be on council. Like, we don't appoint, we don't pick. Now, I guess if somebody left, that option becomes open. But leave that aside. It's the community that elects who they want in council. Very true.
Very true. It is the people who are qualified to vote who elect. And
go a little further. I got a comment that the council isn't diverse, and I'm thinking our ages range from approximately 30 to approximately 75. We have 4 out of 9 are women. We have 1 who is born in Southeast Asia. And I think we very much reflect the community as is, and will continue to do so. As the community changes and people vote, voters in the community change, I think the council will reflect that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in many ways it always has, but we'll see what happens in 2 years' time.
Yep.
No further comment on your part.
Well, nothing else I really can say on it.
No, true. So, what are you looking forward to this summer?
Well, certainly, going back to Alpha Street River Precinct, festivals that are going to be going on, getting out on a bicycle, getting out in a sailboat, getting, so much going on. We'll be doing some Southern Ontario Isotope Coalition, Southwestern Ontario Isotope Coalition work going into the spring with different events and presentations and educational opportunities. Try and attract more municipal members because the industrial people and the commercial people and the scientists don't really care about where a borderline is between one municipality or the other. And they're going to come where it makes sense for them relative to Bruce Power, relative to health agencies, relative to research agencies, et cetera. So, I'm going to keep chipping away and try and get more municipalities signed up in the region, Grey Bruce, Huron, maybe Perth, university hospitals, perhaps, maybe London, maybe all the electronic tech stuff in Waterloo. We'll have should have some involvement, perhaps. So, trying to build out that coalition so that as our region, we can go after the world and attract the world to the region.
Now, you did say you would be taking some time to do some sailing.
Hopefully. There never seems to be enough time, or else it's raining. But it's
yeah, that's true. Well, at least you could attend. You could attend a council meeting on your boat if you really wanted to.
It's easier to be here when you're chairing.
You're not going to abrogate your responsibility.
I did do one a couple of weeks ago on holidays where Scott chaired the meeting, and
yes,
I was able to be a counselor, and that's it works. It works quite well to be able to participate from somewhere else.
I think one of the things that people don't realize is the level of technology that has enabled you as a mayor and council. We've got about just about a minute and a half left, but people may not realize that you've all got your iPads and the underlying software is quite remarkable.
I did a committee meeting last Wednesday from the hotel in Ottawa before I ran over to the conference, and yeah, it's nice to be able to do that. It used to be if you're away, you're away.
Yeah, and I do remember not long ago, councillors coming in by telephone.
Yes,
which was less than optimal. So anyway, well, Ian, we're just about out of time. I want to thank you for keeping this beautiful vision behind us, in our view, and also for the work that you've been doing at Owen Sound City Council. And we will absolutely come back again, and hey, maybe you'll have your own hard hat for the Alpha Street project.
Perhaps.
Okay.
So Dave, quickly, happy St. Patrick's Day. I've got my green on.
Absolutely. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you, Ian Boddy, Mayor of Owen Sound, and thank you, friends, for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. Yes, we'll talk again.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
on Rogers TV.
Man, is there a lot of pressure on this young fighter here tonight.
Fighting is life.
This is my belt. I earned this in blood, paid in full. This is mine.
Everyone gets knocked down.